would be in line with the strategic plan. It's all about being inclusive and being intentional about it. So that said, that addresses the unfinished business. Are there any questions about that before we move any further with this meeting? Okay, if none, then we're going on to the next thing. In line with the strategic plan. It's all about being inclusive and being intentional about it. So that said, that addresses the okay. Okay, so what is the role of the nominating committee? The primary role of the nominating committee is to facilitate recruitment of new board members, new trustees. That is our primary work. And the additional thing that we discussed was we felt that there was a need to make sure that people who were trustees could be aware of opportunities on the board as an officer by making sure that everyone was aware of responsibilities, what skill sets would be best suited for those opportunities, that kind of thing, all in the spirit of inclusion. And as we consider how we might align with the new strategic plan, I'm looking at two things and we can discuss this. One is the, uh, one is diversity and inclusion. That was one of the things that was important, and that is on the strategic plan. And the other thing is community engagement. Being out there and making sure that we are touching base with all factions of the city of Albany and engaging and hearing what they need and trying to recruit people who could reflect the interests and needs of the library and the community that we serve. Any questions, anything to be added to that? We've been joined by Trustee Lynette Robinson remotely.
I imagine I will have more to contribute once I sort of absorb all of this and start processing.
Don't worry, because there is work to be had by all. And knowing you, as I get to know you, you will be in there full force to contributing. But this is a first meeting, and that is all right. It's also an initial learning process. Okay, so um, when we look at the work that we are going to be engaged in, when we talk about the recruitment process, we got to think about all the things that go into that. So we're going to need to work closely with the marketing department of the library because people need to know what our role is, what the responsibilities are, what we're looking for in terms of personal qualities, and um, and the time frame for engagement. Got to do that. So I think we need to have a conversation with Stephanie about how to make that happen. I know in the past we've had articles.
I'm sorry, is Stephanie marketing?
Stephanie is our public information officer, and she's the department head for the department, well, that does all of our communications.
So that includes, okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
okay. So what do you suggest we do to get the word out um, to the residents of the city of Albany about this opportunity? Right now, I'm aware of two trustees who are terming. My term ends um, this year, and I believe Sarah Dallas. There's two of us.
I think I think, good question. I thought no trustees
I
terms ended
don't
this
think
year.
any trustee terms end this year. I think
Yeah.
it's 2024.
I think your terms end next year.
Next year?
Yeah.
Okay, so do we need to do this? There's no need then to have an election?
Well, all of your points are still valid. It's just that it'll be a little bit before we start in earnest planning and putting together a marketing strategy for the purpose of spreading the word and doing as much outreach as possible to get a great slate.
Okay, so this is about planning for that.
And I think one thing you suggested in the past, Arlene, is sending out a survey once a year, like in maybe February, that says, do any trustees plan to resign in the near future? Or something to that effect, we can word it better, but that in a year like this, that is how we would know how many seats we need to fill. And that way, when we go out and do our community recruiting, we know how many candidates we're hoping to get.
Okay, so we probably need to do that because you never know, there may be trustees on the board presently who will not be continuing. All
Right.
right, so we'll do that, we can do that in the February meeting. And then perhaps maybe later on in the season.
So it might make sense, and this is a question, not a
Mhm.
statement, but should we do that? Should we do that maybe by like Google form or email, so that it's not putting people on the spot in the meeting in case they don't know right away or whatever?
I think the easiest would be just to have someone email you, like
Yeah.
announce it in the meeting and then say,
Yeah.
hey, just let Tom know, because
Or
just
let
saves.
her lead know. 'Cause she's-
Okay.
Excuse me, let Arlene know, yeah.
Okay,
Does that make
Okay.
sense?
that can work, that can work.
that's the
Okay,
main-
and then that will let us know if we need to start the process. But I'm thinking in the meantime, there are some things that we can do to engage the community, to let them know about the opportunities and to get them thinking about, and being able to visualize themselves as potential trustees, because that does not happen overnight, especially, if you're reaching out to people who have never been involved. So some of the things that we will be talking about still apply. It's just that we may not have to worry about people, being sure to get petitions unless we have a trustee who decides that they're not going to be continuing this year.
Can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
So there is an opportunity on our website to, I'm just pulling it up now, but I was thinking some libraries and organizations, for that matter, all kinds of organizations, will post pictures of their board members on their website. There'll be an area of the website that's just for getting to know the board. Here we are, here's how to contact us. And that might be a great place to direct people and to just make available to the community, because
I think we do that.
we do that.
There's somewhere,
Yeah.
Let me,
it's
a little hard to
on
get
the
to.
leadership page.
Leadership
leadership.
page.
Yeah.
But
And
are
then-
there?
it's not like a fun,
Scroll
friendly, this
down.
is Sarah.
No, it's just
Yeah,
not.
scroll down,
Oh my goodness.
and then
What?
board of trustees.
Okay, well.
Yeah, see.
We
yeah.
can make this a lot more accessible because this information is buried. And actually, I'm trying to maximize that,
So
and
maybe
there's
it's-
nothing there.
Okay, so maybe it's been removed.
It's
Okay.
whatever was there before, it's not there anymore. There is a list of the board members that's like pretty far up on the page, but I think that having a grid right above the fold, as they say, so that when you land on this leadership page, you see the board immediately.
Okay, so maybe that is something that we can take a look at. I think the other thing is because there are people who historically have been missing from the trustees. We need to be intentional in our outreach efforts. I never, in all my years of involvement, have ever seen a Hispanic person being a member of the board. I've never seen an Asian person. There's just we don't have very many men. And I've never seen an African American male as part of the team. And I think that probably it would not be a bad thing to start talking to people now and trying to encourage people to consider the possibilities so that next year, when we are involved in the business of recruiting people, we'll have created perhaps a pool of people who are thinking about it.
Mhm.
I think that that is the thing we might try to do.
So when the library goes out into the community and tables at different things, could we have, I mean, not necessarily a board member, because, we work and a lot of times those happen during the day. But could we have at least like representative materials available at the table? And, like just, because like what you had said, Arlene, about it taking a bit to sink in is
Mhm.
very true. Like, because, I just ran last year and we had several, um, like I get the library emails and it
Mhm.
was in there like several months in a row. And it took several months for me to go from, maybe I could do that,
Mhm.
to maybe I should do that, to yes, I am going to do that. Like
Mhm.
it and so like I can very much agree with your statement about it taking time. And if we had something when the library goes out.
I mean, ultimately, there's no one more effective than you, the board, in terms of going out into, your daily lives, your board meetings, your
Mhm.
your community activities. No one's more powerful than you to say, hey, this is a good gig. This if you care about your library, this is a great way to help.
Mhm.
We, the staff, we do say that when Melanie and I were speaking to the Chamber of Commerce this morning, a new cohort of their leadership uh, program. I forget the name of it. Capital Region Leadership, something like that. Used to be Leadership Tech Valley. Anyway, it was a room full of community leaders, and we were able to go through all of the ways the library works within the community. And Melanie ended by saying, here's how you can help. And one of the ways that you could help was go to a library event, join the library, or become a board member.
Mhm.
And so it's part of our pattern, but it's not nearly as compelling as hearing it from a trustee.
Well, Trustee Robinson, what are your thoughts?
Sorry. I just working at, for a charter school. So I think coming to some of the parent advisory board meetings that we have, um, maybe maybe a good idea. Because now it's not just Albany Community Charter. We are KIP. So it's us, KIP Tech Valley, and then Troy Prep, both elementary, middle, and high school. So we do have I think it's like once a quarter, we host our parent advisory board meetings as a whole, and I can always keep you guys up on that information. I think it would be good to see someone other than myself speaking about the library because they hear me talk all the time, just being in operations at the school. But I will definitely get that information out because the parents, from what we're working on now at this, just speaking from a school level, is the literacy program. So having those hearing the voice of the parents, because we want stuff at the library, we want the people to be involved, and these are people in our community. I think that would be a great way. So I have the the keys to the door. I'm opening it up so that we can come in and help out with some of these
Great. Sounds like you're
conversations.
in demand over there, Lynette.
I know us twin and twins. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine.
No, I think that's an excellent idea.
Yeah.
I'm also thinking that maybe we can have some quiet conversations with some community leaders right?
Mhm.
So that are representing the Hispanic population, that are representing groups that we never have at our table, you know, and get them thinking and looking for opportunities where we may be able to go and present to them
Mhm.
and encourage their thinking and start to do that, I would say now, so that next year when it comes around, maybe people will, have considered it and would be encouraged to apply.
Yeah, those are both good ideas. And they remind me that something we did in probably 2019, right before the pandemic, was we, when it came time to do the community report and present our budget, the
Mhm,
library goes to a lot of the neighborhood association meetings.
mhm,
And at least 1 year, if not 2 years, we made a schedule where one board member would sign up to go with the library just to
mhm,
attend the meeting if he said he
mhm.
lived in that neighborhood, whatever. And the director would just kind of introduce the board member and say, thank you for being here. And, we're also having an election and whatever, give the little pitch.
Mhm.
Right, right.
And I thought that was effective when I did that.
I think we should do that again.
Okay.
I think that should be part of the plan. So, and again, it's all about being intentional in our outreach. So, okay, so summarize. What we're looking to do is to connect with the schools. The NEC has given us, she's got the keys.
To the charter,
To
right?
the
Yeah.
charter. So we can do that, and we can also talk to the publics. We can talk to their community engagement people so that we can get the word out there. We can tag along with with staff when they're going to present to the neighborhood associations and be available to perhaps open up some conversation or some ideas. And then the other thing is to intentionally target some underrepresented groups
Mhm.
now, early on, so that we can start to plant the seeds for who might be
Yeah.
interested in serving.
I would also suggest, and this is a little bit untraditional maybe, but
Okay.
there are always times right before or right after a meeting. Like I'm thinking of Serve Albany brunch, the
Mhm,
recent Serve Albany brunch that I attended, and how there's always a few minutes when people are just socializing.
mhm,
And I think whether or not a trustee or I like or whether or not we stayed for the full event or not, if it's taking place at the library, that's an opportunity to socialize with folks who you can have one-on-one conversations with, because this is
mhm.
all about like it's so much more effective if you're just talking one-on-one with someone,
Right.
in a social, in a relaxed setting
Mhm.
versus like giving a pitch to a whole room of people. Both good strategies, just different. And so, in addition, I would say like if there are community events that are fun, that are going to draw a lot of people, it might be good to just like try going to maybe a less business-like or professional setting just to have those kinds of conversations with people.
Okay, so you know what, maybe what we can do is just build a calendar, you know, build a calendar of such events and plan. We gotta be intentional. If
Mhm.
we're going to make this happen, we have to be intentional.
Mhm.
So, we'll build a calendar. Let's put our heads together and then also identify specific groups that we want to target. And I'm with you on that, is I'm thinking to talk, have quiet conversations with leadership
Mhm.
and let them know what we're thinking.
So when you say quiet conversations, you mean like of a more intimate nature, like kind of like a one-on-one phone
One-on-one,
call or a one-on-one
one-on-one
conversation?
conversation with folks,
Mhm.
let them know, what we're trying to do and give their ideas about how we might be able to make it happen. Okay, so we can make a list of get from the other people on the board, some suggestions about who we should be reaching out to, what events are coming up that we should be targeting, um, and make a plan to make it happen.
Mhm.
Okay.
Another recent event that I thought of was the Chamber of Commerce holiday party. Like it was just it was a chamber event full of just people from all over the capital region,
Mhm.
all different skill sets represented. Just it was such a diverse crowd too, and that would have been a really cool time to kind of like sit down at a table and say, hey, let me introduce myself, and have a trustee with me to kind of just move through the crowd and introduce ourselves.
You're gonna make me break out of my introvert bubble.
This is about breaking out of one's introvert bubble for sure. Yes.
And you will. You cannot stay in that bubble and be part of this group.
Well, this is
It's
a
not
great, I
gonna
mean,
happen. Forget
it's
about it.
it's such a strong configuration in terms of a board. I mean, I've never worked with a board that is so racially diverse. I mean, you can believe it because I'm coming from Arlington, Massachusetts, where it's just not as diverse a community. But Albany is, and Albany is reflected in this board to a degree that I think is pretty impressive.
Well, it was not always like that. So this is a new day for this board. And I'm thinking that what we want to do is expand on that,
Mhm.
to get other people who are not at the table, but we were not always diverse.
Well, but this is like a great moment.
It is a great
It's a
moment.
great moment.
And we're gonna build on it. So, okay, so the other thing that we're interested in doing is making sure that people are aware of the officers' positions and the opportunities, the work of those positions and opportunities to become an officer so that people can be thinking about how they can become engaged, you know, at additional levels. So I'll put it out. What do you think is the best way to do that?
Um, so one thing we've talked about in the past a little bit is making like a PowerPoint that describes it, and putting it, we can put that on board docs and email it to all the board members once a year. I think that would be helpful. So that would like describe each position and the time commitment of each position and what they entail.
Can we, speaking for myself and probably other people on the board, we do get emailed things that perhaps don't get the attention that they deserve. And, we've been talking, since I've been around about, this board retreat thing. If we have like a team building board time, if someone actually presented the PowerPoint, I think that but speaking for myself, because I'm only me, would get more out of it. Like there's more engagement if you're saying, I am president and I do blah, 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 more than just, I am, like, here, Sarah, read the PowerPoint.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there is an opportunity coming up. I mean, I know that the scope of that is slightly different, but I don't know if that's something that you would want to entertain.
I think we should do it a little closer to when the
Sure,
election comes up.
sure. But I think it's also valuable for the existing member, since a good number of them will still be on. It might be. I don't know if we can certainly just food for thought.
Okay, so you're thinking, so she was talking about the board retreat. You're thinking about the training that's coming up.
I was thinking about the training that's right on the horizon, but I know that there are other things that need to be covered in that training. I certainly, I wasn't sure how much would need to be devoted to certain topics, but
no, I hear what
it is
you're
a time
saying.
when you're all together. I mean, I think taking that model of using time at a board meeting when everyone is going to be gathered in there anyway. It seems like it's a strategy that might work well for a group, for this configuration of the group, maybe, I don't know, but it seems to be effective. I mean, it could be as simple as Upper Hudson zooming in for like 15 minutes to talk, to do like a quick hit, a quick hit of information before the election happens.
Well, I think we can describe our own roles.
That too, absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
I'm thinking, piggybacking on what Sarah was talking about, is if we could tie it into leadership.
Yeah.
If we could tie it into an opportunity where we're looking at leadership development for trustees, right? And then we can talk about the different roles and responsibilities, and people can vision again, how it can work, how they may consider, at some point aspiring to do X, Y, and Z, and what they would do, if they were to pursue that role. But I think, so, do we have any idea about what is going on with the retreat? Bless you. Have you done any planning for that?
We haven't. We decided to do these 2 trainings kind of in lieu of a retreat for the moment. But, the next year is always right around the corner. It'll come up quick. So I think the board should get back to doing like a retreat day. And then we can think about whether that should be before the annual meeting or like in the fall. I think we used to do it in June, but there's no reason to stick to that just because we did it that way.
Well, June is kind of good because we're starting the year.
Yeah, and you've just been through budget season, fresh fiscal year, so to speak. Well, almost. It's July, almost.
Yeah.
But if it's a low time of like other board business going on, then that would be good.
And we can do it in a way that is fun.
Yeah.
And I think we need to find ways to have fun together. Fun as we're learning and developing. And if we're tying it into not just leadership but team building, I think that is something that would be a very good thing to do. And I would say that it should not be a one and done thing, that we should do team building and leadership development on a regular basis.
Yes.
Okay. So, all right.
So there's one other aspect of the board officer conversation that I also wanted this committee to start thinking about, probably a bigger conversation that we can settle tonight.
Okay.
But so one thing that I've heard from trustees, and I feel this myself every year, is like we don't have a lot of transparency in how we decide who's going to run for stuff. So, and some of that is legal reasons, like you're not really allowed to go around like counting votes and stuff outside of the public meetings because of the public open meeting laws and stuff. So it can get a little tricky, and that's why we haven't changed it. But one thing that I'd like to do while I'm president is talk to Bob and like see what we can do and see if we can like, have a meeting or an executive session where we all say what we're interested in for the next year so that everybody kind of knows who is interested in what. And then that, when it comes time to elect people, it doesn't feel like we're like surprised or whatever by who's nominating. Like this year it was really hard because 4 of you were new and you didn't really know any of us. And it didn't, right? Like I don't like that feeling. It's been like that for all my time on the board. So I don't know exactly how to fix it yet, but I just wanted to throw out there that we could be a little more communicative about that.
I agree, and it has come up a lot.
Yeah.
So maybe, maybe this could be a conversation with Tim.
Yeah.
You know, Tim and that team about how we might go about a thing like that. And he would understand the rules in terms of the open meetings laws and all that.
Tim, as in the Upper Hudson.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So that might be a way to go. And we can always confirm with Bob, our attorney, but, um, Tim has really seen, um, the range, you know, wider scope of how different libraries operate. I think he could be helpful to us in that. Okay.
I'm sure he'd be happy to. I mean, having just met with him earlier today, he was very vocal about wanting to support me, the board, in any way that he can. And this is certainly one, he actually mentioned board bylaws, board development as a specific, so.
Mhm.
Along that line, is Upper Hudson also a resource in helping us identify ways to be more purposefully inclusive of a board and, who we're trying to recruit to run? Like, would they have
Yeah.
strategies that we could, instead of us trying to invent
Mhm.
wheels,
Mhm.
jump on thoughts that they have?
Well, they may have some ideas to share.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that, and I think that you have people on the board who are connected to community, different communities, and who have been doing community outreach and engagement for a long time.
Mhm.
And this would be an opportunity to work with them differently. So I think the blend of that with what Upper Hudson might offer, I think could be a very good thing. That's a good idea. We should try it. Okay, okay. So I'm thinking that when I keep going back, recapping, we need to survey the board to see if there's anyone who may be thinking about leaving before their term ends. So that we will know how to plan our calendar accordingly and how to advise. And in the meantime, we're going to, can we have some time to discuss this in the full board meeting?
Yeah.
You know, and then we can get some ideas and maybe get some volunteers to make recommendations to us about, their thoughts on community engagement and recruiting people who are not at the table and making recommendations about who they may know and the events, we might want to be present at so that we can do the one-on-one thing that you were talking about. So if we could just have a little time, um, to do that, that would be good. Next, in February, what we will do is we'll survey the board members and see, who may be thinking about leaving. So we won't be in shock. What are you thinking?
I'm thinking about the February 7 board meeting, which is a little bit earlier, and it's going to be a lot shorter. And I'm wondering, like, if we're trimming away a lot of the other typical meeting stuff, would there be enough time for a nominating committee report that could touch on the things that, like basically delivering a regular report, but building in room for exactly what you just spoke about?
Okay. For the February 7th meeting? Okay.
I mean, it probably wouldn't take 5 minutes.
No. The only challenge would be if someone had a lot of stuff to say.
Well, right.
And so, you know what, we deal with that because we want to understand. We want to hear what people have to say, but I won't take a long time.
Well, would it, keeping that in mind, and then the later February is
That's the budget meeting, yeah.
So then, like, if, February 7th, we, say, hey, these are the things we talked about, if you can start thinking about what, it is that, like places to reach out, blah, 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 these various
The
things
calendar.
we've talked about.
Yeah.
And then, we've got, people have time to digest it and think about,
Mhm.
high internet world, I do a lot of my thinking in the shower, right? Like,
Okay.
but like, then you've got like that, your way in your commute thought or wherever it is, you've got that time to be like, oh yeah. And then, we can collect those ideas in March when there's more time.
Exactly. What we will be doing is just introducing the idea, planting seeds, and then March, perhaps we can have a fuller discussion because people would have had and we can tell them that in March, we want to hear from you on X,
Yeah.
Y, Z.
Mhm.
I thought you were contributing. I told you.
I need orientation.
Oh,
And see, I had time for it to sink in.
you see, this is what I mean. This is what I mean. So, okay, so that'll be how we'll flow with this. Okay, all right. Is there anything else we need to be thinking about?
I'm going back to the agenda. Are you wondering about this particular category or?
Well, I'm thinking that, um, yeah, I mean, in terms of what we're talking about, it looks like our big goal is to get ourselves organized for more intentional outreach for the recruitment effort. And we're going to be looking at strategies. That's the big goal. And to make sure we're not going to be caught by surprise by anyone leaving.
Mhm.
Okay? So if anyone, tells us that they're going to leave, then we know what we need to do in terms of promotion because that kicks up everything a bit.
Just out of curiosity, so I am on a shorter term because I am filling in the vacated seat.
Mhm.
Was that a surprise, and is that sort of a impetus for this keeping track of who's leaving, or?
Well, we had a board member go on vacation, and when he came back, decided to leave. He went to Spain and he came back and decided that he was going to leave, and that caused us to have to do a quick reshuffle.
Yeah, there was one year where we had 2 open spots and only one person ran. So we didn't have enough candidates to fill both the spots. So that
So
kind of
that's the
prompted
other
us
thing,
to, yeah,
Focus on
that was 2
recruitment.
years ago, not here yet, but.
So we have plenty of people.
Yeah.
Well, you
Well,
did a
yeah,
good, the
but
board
we
did a good
some-
job.
We did some
Exactly, yeah.
work on that, to make that happen.
Yeah, so clearly your efforts pay off when you decide to focus on recruitment. It pays off.
We have to be intentional and also be prepared not to be surprised, though. Anything can happen at any time. But this covers those bases. Okay. So does it sound like we're going to be in a good, in a good place in terms of our work for the year?
I think, I'm not a board member, but it certainly sounds that way to me. I think getting focused this early, it's kind of a fortunate thing that, you spurred off this conversation thinking that we had some terms ending this year, but
Yeah, I thought
you know-
I was going to.
well, maybe we'll be hearing from you in February. You'll hear it from yourself. But I think that in seriousness, when you start early, you have a much better chance for success in this outreach effort and this planning effort. So even if the board is looking ahead to 2024,
Yeah,
it's a great time to start getting thoughts together and putting together a plan.
and being intentional. That's the thing, we have to be intentional. Okay.
So, I'm just gonna jump back to the beginning of the meeting for
Mhm.
a moment. I really liked what Andrea had mentioned about like the get to know the board section. And I think that that's something that we can be working on as we go along.
Mhm.
Also, so that, it's not like this big hustle, but we can have, if we have like thoughtful, get to know your board member moments, including what do you find fulfilling about being a board member and things like that, that may give people more time, especially if it's easier to find on the website, to just click on it and be like, oh, this looks like a good opportunity for me to be involved and help. Just, I'm stealing your planting a seed metaphor. That's another seed that we can plant.
Yes, absolutely. And again, it is aligned with the strategic plan, right? That we just that whole thing about community engagement.
Mhm.
We need to be out there. The community needs to know who we are, and we need to be more present in terms of being able to hear and understand what is important to them. And the only way that's going to happen is if we are out there doing that. So that works. And go ahead.
One thing the committee could do tonight is ask Andrea and Stephanie to work on that page.
Mhm.
And so if you want to do that, then Stephanie could create a page, kind of like what's already there for the staff,
Mhm.
and she could perhaps start with our photos and our biographies that we used when we ran for office.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
It
And
kind of
then-
used to be on there.
Yeah,
Oh, but it went away.
yeah,
Okay.
we think so
It's dormant, I think. It's probably
Okay.
just a page that needs to be populated, and that's going to be pretty easy to do. The framework is probably already there.
Okay.
so maybe I would suggest starting with that, like however Stephanie thinks is best, and then maybe sending it to the trustees if they want to edit their bios or
Sure,
something.
sure.
How big is our social media presence?
Oh, it's really decent. I don't know off the top of my head what the figures are, but we have a really strong following on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter for that matter.
We're on Twitter.
Okay.
The only of those.
Well,
that
I mean, and when I
have
say
is
we,
Facebook,
I'm talking about,
and I love the
The
library
library, yeah.
Facebook.
yeah,
Like it puts out, I mean, good information, but there's also like very silly library nerdy things that come out on it. And
but I think I'm picking up what you're putting down insofar as like once the board decides on an outreach strategy, you're thinking push it out that way as well.
Because I just feel like a lot of connections that we make is, and I am one of those people now who I really don't like social media anymore. It just consumes so much of your time. But like when we're involved in the community, working for a charter, social media has become my life. So it's just like sending and scheduling posts to be made on random days. We have at my school, my building, all of our classrooms are named after, they have a Swahili name. It's our founder created that. So we'll put out the name and then we'll say the next day what the meaning is. And then a week later, we'll do a trivia. So on Tuesday, the 17th, what do we say? Just something to gauge people, to bring them in. Maybe we might think about doing some of those things. I would love to sit down and, say all of my ideas. And I would be in person if it wasn't for COVID. Yay. But it's just like I'm also, with being new to the board, getting to know the members and who I'm working with. Like, I appreciated the fact that Tom called me when, because he was going to be the board president, and introducing himself to me personally. That meant something to me. That was important to me. I know Miss Arlene, but not in this way. I know Miss Arlene from church. So it's like, you have different connections. Andrea West, we move in a lot of the same circles in the community. But it's just putting all of our pieces together and building together, like building a unit together, and then going to the community like, hey, here we are, the team. Here's the trustees, I think that we'll be able to attack it in a different way if we sit down and have a few more conversations. And I like Starbucks, so whenever anybody's ready to go talk.
Yeah.
We can add it to the plan. Well, this is good.
Where Tom said that, what we can do now is ask Stephanie and Andrea about building, this web page.
Mhm.
So in real life, I work in the Department of Health, and we have forms for everything. So are there forms, is there a proper procedure that we need to follow to request
wow.
this happen?
Request what happened?
The face,
No,
pages, the web page.
No, there's
stuff.
no form. I'm the form. You just told me and I can make it happen. But you made me think of something else, which I want to just throw out. I don't know if it's going to make sense to you, but we have ongoing recruitment with civil service for various positions.
Mhm.
What if there were a form or something, some way for someone who lands on the trustee page to indicate interest in getting information about becoming a trustee?
Oh. yeah,
Like just
why
a
not?
little like ongoing recruitment effort for the board,
Mhm.
not in the sense that there's an election on the horizon. I mean, there's always an election on the horizon. It's just that right now the horizon is in 2024.
Mhm.
But if we had some way to invite and engage that interest at the point where the person's interested, then we build a list.
Mhm.
It's basically a mailing list for future candidates.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
What do you think?
I think that's excellent. And
I'm picturing it, and so I'm thinking about the Starbucks. I'm like, and that could even like morph into coffee with a trustee. Like if you,
Oh, now we're talking.
if like, and like I've got my little introvert bubble, but if like I have a time to like, I know I'm meeting you for coffee, and we have things to talk about. That's fine. I can do that. It's the walking up to a stranger on the street, being like, "Hi, my name's Sarah, and I'm a library trustee." That's like, I mean, it was so scary getting signatures. But like,
Mhm.
I would be willing to one-on-one folks that would be interested in knowing what it's like and
Another thing we could consider for the trustees, now I'm really fired up. One of the things we could consider is our business cards for you, so that when you go to social events,
Oh, that would be
like trustee
helpful.
business cards, potentially. I know it's like another thing to carry, but like if you know you're going to an event that's going to be fruitful in this way, or that could be fruitful in this way, having a little stack, and maybe the business card has a QR code that links to the trustee page or something like that.
Right. I think that would be helpful. Okay, that could be very helpful. We don't have, very, if somebody wanted to communicate with us, how would they do that?
Well, on the leadership page of the library website, there's a little section about the APL Board of Trustees right at the top, and then right under that is a list of board members with your email addresses and your terms.
Our library email.
Your library email
okay.
addresses, yeah.
Great. Okay. All right. Well, that sounds like an excellent idea.
so I have another, and then I'll stop talking. But
Our little introvert.
when I go to the library to look for materials or attend an event, I go as Sarah, public person. Like I don't put on my library name tag. I go as like I mentioned that strategic planning. Like
Mhm.
I'm like a secret shopper,
Right.
Like, but perhaps that could also be something we could encourage people to actually put on their name tags when they do library events,
Mhm.
and not go just as the public person, but be visibly identified as
Yeah.
a trustee.
I think that's a great idea. And I could also communicate with staff that like the trustees who are going to events with their name tags aren't expecting anything special. You're just there to promote the idea of being, promote the fact that you're an engaged trustee, that you care about events, going to events, and that you also are open to talking about it.
I think that's an excellent idea. I do, and I think that that's a good, also an additional vehicle for piquing interest, and letting people know, I guess getting them involved in voting. Because if they see you're out there and that you're engaged, then they see the commitment. And when time comes for voting, and when they vote for us, they're also out there voting for budget, right? And so I think that it's an excellent opportunity again to be planting seeds and for us to be following.
We're gonna have a whole garden at the end of this meeting.
Well,
It'll be
this is
garden.
what we
It's just,
want.
it's, I think we need to come up with cool ways to make people pay attention to the back of the ballot, right? So not to say it in a bad
What's
way,
on the back of the ballot?
usually
Oh,
on, right. So like when you go vote, and this is just me because I'm married to a councilman. So you have everything on the front. It has all of the party stuff and all of the names. On the back is usually budget stuff, library stuff. I know that there's been, when I first moved to Albany 11 years ago and started, oh gosh, 12 years now, almost 13 years. So anyway, but when I got up here, it was just like, get involved, because this is what I was doing in Westchester. I'm like, I never paid attention to the back of the ballot. And then when you read it, it's stuff that talks about what the library is doing, and voting on library things, and school board stuff and all of the other things. So we need people to focus on the back of the ballot because it is important to what you want to see happening at your library that's directly in your community.
Mm-hmm. I need to see a ballot at some point. Like, I would love to see.
I have one. I'll bring one to the next meeting. I have, just like, and I'll show you what I mean when I say like the back. They're literally, when you go, you flip it over and there's always something on the back to vote for, like certain local laws and all of that. And then they put, I will say our stuff now because being on the board, library stuff, school board stuff on the opposite side of the ballot. So when I say the back, it's a loose term, but it's the opposite side of the ballot. That's what we need people to also pay attention to. So like, you're voting for all of these things. We want to hear your voice, this, like that.
That's another opportunity.
We're coming up with some good ideas for how we can assist the strategic implementation of the strategic plan, through some real community engagement. This is good. And you know what? And this is kind of like not trustee stuff, but it's also an opportunity to maybe recruit people or get people to think about the foundation or to get people to think about friends,
Yes.
and they can still come and consider running for trustees, but we have other opportunities that could be helpful. So,
And it's very true that these groups cross-pollinate each other. Like sometimes when people run for trustee and they might not get the votes to become a trustee, but then they pivot because obviously they have a care and interest in the library. So they just pivot to the board for the Friends and Foundation. So it's great when that happens, and it's a wonderful thing to encourage.
So, but people need to know about these opportunities. So this would be our way of helping to make that happen. Oh, okay.
It's funny because when Roger Green on the Friends and Foundation, we go to church together and our kids grew up together. And when I was bringing my petition over, he's like, I'll sign this. He's like, but if you don't win, he's like, just be warned, I'm recruiting you for this.
Fair warning, right? Yeah.
I think that's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Okay. All right. Well, we have got some extra work to do that I think is going to be in a long run a tremendous benefit, to the library system. And I think also to us individually as trustees, I can really see the good benefit here. Okay. All right.
Yeah, I think this is really good. So maybe I'll email you, Arlene, about the things we want to say at the next board meeting,
Mhm.
and we'll just make a spot on the agenda for that.
Okay.
So I'll do that sometime this week. I'll also finalize these minutes and send them to you too.
Okay. Sounds good.
Would you mind sending me like the sort of rough cut of the minutes?
Yeah.
Because those have all the nitty gritty ideas.
Yeah.
Great.
Yes.
Okay.
Where are we in the agenda?
I think we're done.
What about the calendar for 2023?
Well, we've got more work to do because we're going to be collecting information. That calendar I had in mind for what we need to do. And
Oh.
we're working towards election.
Okay, I thought that was the calendar of nominating committee meetings for the rest of the year.
Well, we do need to do that. So, but I was not thinking about that. I was thinking about how we could, I was looking at the election as being May 16th,
Mhm.
you know, and all the things that we needed to do to prepare for that. So I'm looking at the publicizing the
Right, right.
opportunity and the orientation that
Yeah.
we provide in the forum and all that stuff.
You were more
So-
nervous than anyone.
Well, 'cause I thought,
Yeah.
you know, my term was ending, and why I did that, I don't know.
Yeah.
So anyway, but this changes because now it's about promotion,
Mhm.
you know, and doing intentional outreach.
Mhm.
And so for that, we're going to be collecting additional information from the other trustees
Yeah.
and maybe staff about, you know, our outreach and a schedule for that. So we're not going to do that calendar that I was thinking about doing. So as far as I can see right now, we've done what we can do today. Unless you want to add something.
No, I think I've not done enough.
I don't know. What do you think, Lynette?
I'm sorry, say that one more time. Just, I have the kids yelling in the back and the iPad's blaring.
Oh, no, that's all right.
Mhm.
So I'm thinking that the calendar that I was thinking about for 2023 is a different kind of animal now because we're not planning for election. Now we're looking at outreach. And so that's going to involve engaging other board members and staff looking at opportunities that we can pursue. So I'm thinking that we're pretty much done for the evening.
And then we meet again in February.
Yeah, so we're going to make the presentation on February 7th. Let's pick a date for meeting that we can begin the work.
Okay. Wednesdays normally don't work for me. Wednesday and Thursday, they do not.
Okay. What's a good day?
Honestly, Tuesday is one of the only days that other than our board meetings, is the only day that I don't have anything else going on. Please
What
stop.
day is that?
Tuesdays?
Tuesdays?
Yeah.
Mommy, I want to
Shh.
see Mommy.
Yes. Hi. I don't. But we
Okay.
keep giving her time.
Mommy.
21st?
Yes, let's do the 21st. Lynette, does that work for you?
You said May 1st,
21st.
May
February
20,
21st.
February 21st. No.
February.
Yes. No. I'm not here that week. That's my husband's birthday week.
What about the 28th?
That's our board meeting.
Board meeting is this one. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Well, okay, you said Tuesdays normally work for you.
I mean, depending on people's plans, for Valentine's Day. That was the date of our original board meeting date, you know?
Right.
It's,
I mean-
it's fine with me, but
That's completely up to you. Like,
I'm fine with
if at
it.
6 p.m. or even 5 p.m., I mean, I don't,
How are you for Valentine's Day?
Mommy,
Honestly,
mommy.
to keep a healthy marriage, I would say no. But if we want to be, I'm just trying to keep a healthy marriage. If you meet on the 21st, can we just create a link, because I can join virtually? Just because I'm out of town, I don't have a problem working. I am a work person. So if you put it on the 21st, because I don't want you to keep looking for dates for me. If we can create this link again, I will jump on.
yeah, we can do that for you. Absolutely.
Okay. So then let's put it on the 21st, and that'll be fine. Zakari, please get down. Thank you so much.
Mommy.
Okay, sounds like a plan at 6 o'clock. All right,
Okay.
okay, 6 o'clock on the 21st. So we're meeting on the 7th. We're going to give a brief summary of things and just, start the conversation. And then on the 21st, we'll come together for our committee meeting. All right, sounds like a plan.
all right.
All right. Are we okay for adjourning?
Yes, you can take a vote.
Okay, I'd like to take a vote. May I have a motion to adjourn the committee meeting?
I make a motion that we. Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Zari and Zakari said they third and fourth the motion. I'm sorry.
No,
Have a good
that's
night.
fine. We're good.
Thanks.
We're good.
Feel better soon.
Thank you.
Feel better